It's hot, 110 in the summer, 70s and 80s in the winter. Hot, 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 hot. And the biggest part of my story is there was one guy that came with me, and he called us all out, and we all looking around, and I thought, gosh, I'm the only one. And they waited to the J's, and they got to Jones, Isaiah Jones. You're staying here in 29 Palms. Well, me and Isaiah Jones a couple weeks back had gotten in a fight. We just weren't getting along. And the way we did it at the Marine Corps was there was a volleyball sand pit. Staff sergeant said, you guys go to that sand pit, don't leave that sand pit, figure it out, and then come back when you're done. And we did. And we figured it out. So I thought, gosh, I'm going to be stationed with that guy. So we got to our unit, and they were giving us the list of our rooms. And they said, well, Jones and Mazziotti, you're in the same room together. I thought, oh, this is not good. This is not good. It's just going to be a constant fight. I want to say day 2, we were best friends. Best friends, couldn't separate us. Isaiah's from Oklahoma, a very rough part of Oklahoma in Oklahoma City, Midwest city, actually. His brother was in prison, serving time for unspecified reasons. Just came from a very rough upbringing. Being from Bend, Oregon, I never had a lot of contact with African American kids. So I thought, I'm not going to get along with them just on the pure fact that I didn't interact with, all my friends were white boys that played basketball. That was it. No offense intended. I thought this isn't going to happen. To this day, my best friend. I call him once a week. His daughters are my goddaughters. His wife is one of my best friends. So anyway, we had started we were together, it was just us two in this small podunk town, and we didn't drink. So we would just hang out in our barracks room, and we would just play video games, and he would run around drinking Kool-Aid. I don't know why I remember that, but he would drink Kool-Aid, and the other kids would try to steal his Kool-Aid because he made really good Kool-Aid. So anyway, a few months later, something came down that said one of our units doesn't have enough radio operators. We need 2 radio operators. Me and Isaiah said, let's go. And it was initially to go to Iraq. So this was right at the end of the Iraq War. The unit that we had gone to, they had just got back from Iraq, right before Isaiah and I had got there. So these guys were all back from Iraq, war-hardened guys, scary, very scary for, new guys that don't have the experience. So they had all just got back from Iraq, so they weren't going anywhere soon. So this list had come down from our sister unit in Camp Pendleton up in San Diego, and they said, we need 2 radio operators. We both volunteered, and by the grace of God, we both got to go together. And we spent our 7 months there together. And he got me through it. That's what got me through it. I can't say anything else got me through it. Mom and Dad I definitely wanted to get home to them, but when you have somebody that is so emotionally invested in one another, the bond is incredible. And if there's anything that I took away from the Marine Corps, it's Isaiah. And I'll tell anybody at the day I die, it's Isaiah. That's what I took away. And it humbled me, it shaped me, it hardened me, because he's a hard dude. I'm in the gym every day, just big old, I always made fun of him because he just happened to be so big, and I don't know how he fit in all that protective gear over here, but somehow he did. But that's what I took away from the Marine Corps was Isaiah. And till the day to my grave, I'll carry that with me, is him. So we went to Afghanistan. We spent our 7 months there. Isaiah was in a B company. He was in Bravo company, and I was in Alpha company. So we were in both different companies, and we didn't get to see each other as much, but we always found time. I'd go bang on his door after I knew he just got back from a 25-hour convoy, and I'd make him wake up and say, hey, just want to check on you, make sure you're good. He'd say, okay, I'm good. He'd tell me, email my mom. I want to sleep. We just email my mom. I'd say, okay, I got you. So I'd go email his mom and say, we're all good. We're all cake. My parents, at least Mom, I don't think, knew really what I was doing when I was over there for this. Dad knew. I told Dad, I was running convoys, but we all tried to keep our moms under the impression that we were as safe as humanly possible. Behind the wire is what we call it. We were always inside the wire, protected. Nothing's going to happen inside the wire, you think. But I have a certificate for running the most convoys in the company because I was the only radio operator with Alpha Company. Isaiah had a replacement. So
Could you explain what running convoys means?
Absolutely. So our job, was to, how do I put this easily? When a vehicle got hit by an IED, improvised explosive device on the road, our job was to go pick them up, to go pick up the truck and whatever was left. That was our job. We had to go clean it up. Part of that was every day the Army goes around and they have a road clearance team. And they go down these roads with different types of technology, radio waves, pressure, to try to pop these IEDs before logistics convoys come or recon convoys are going 60 miles an hour down the road and hit something. So if a vehicle hit something, it usually meant that road wasn't cleared. It didn't matter. We had to go and get them. So that was just part of what, we just, wasn't about us. It was about what was on the other side of that we had to get to. Mm-hmm. My platoon commander, Lieutenant Ted Beck, another just solid guy. Just a great dude. Saved a lot of lives, and brought all of us home. None of us died. None of us in my platoon were gone. We all came home, which is a pretty big success in the time that I was over there and where I was at. I was in Helmand Province, which is southern, very flat, not as mountainous, and we invaded Marja. That's the name of the town we invaded. I was on the second wave of invasion, but it was still an invasion. I mean, you were getting shot at every day. It didn't matter where you were, if you were on base, and inside the wire there was different from where Isaiah and I were stationed, which was on a little bit bigger base, up a little higher. This base that I would travel to a lot, and I was at, I would stay there for 2 months at a time and run operations. Recon would come in and they would do a 2-month operation in that area, and they'd be running those roads. So they'd always have to have a team there to go and get these vehicles back to base, get these guys back to base, and/or medevac, or back to the States. So this base was protected, but it wasn't. I mean, there was a gate, and then it was the local populace, and the local populace weren't very nice. So I spent 2 months there away from Isaiah. He was up on the big base. But so basically all we did was we ran convoys to go, and when I say a convoy, it was usually 6 to 7 trucks, 4 gun trucks, and I was a gunner and the radio operator. So I stood in the gun turret on a 50 cal, and I was on the radio. So I kind of did both. Manpower was real low then. In that time, there wasn't a lot of, like there is now, people jumping to go enlist and go, want to do something for their country. It just wasn't happening right after the Iraq War because of, I think, the rate of casualty. So we weren't low, but we had just enough guys to get by. So I was always kind of doing something, and I drove a truck, I gunned, or I radio operated. So we had 6 or 7 trucks, and there'd be 2 what was Humvees, which are now MATVs, which are very, very protected vehicles, in front, and then we'd have a wrecker with us, a big tow truck, and then we'd have a big flatbed trailer with us, and then 2 more of us in the back, 2 more protected vehicles in the back. So I was always in one of those 2 protected vehicles, and then the wrecker operator and the flatbed operator, that was their job. They were motor T guys. That's what they did. They drove. So they weren't really integrated with us. We kind of just escorted them around. As a matter of fact, I escorted diplomats around a few times. They would come to the government center, which was in Marja, and they were trying to okay it to vote, trying to get people to come vote. But nobody would come vote because you'd be shot before you got there to vote by the Taliban, because they didn't want you to vote. They didn't want someone telling them how this city's going to run. Eventually, before I had left or shortly after I left, they were voting, and the bazaars were back open, and there were pigs hanging from the bazaars. When I first got there, I didn't see a soul. I mean, there were constant bombing campaigns and Taliban retaliation, from working with Americans, from saying we'd go in and we'd blast over a loudspeaker in Arabic. We're coming. If you're not bad, leave. If you're bad, stay. Basically what it said. No one would leave. Just like you or me. I'm not leaving my home. This is my home. So that was so we'd have to bring in diplomats to constantly go into villages, and I want to say there was more women than there was men. diplomats. I don't know what they did. I was just told to escort them, but men couldn't talk to women. So the women diplomats would have to come in, and sometimes Marines, sometimes Army, sometimes government officials. You know, they would come in and they would gather the women and the children, and they would say, "You guys got to go. You got to get out of here." So I definitely I escorted diplomats, but my main job was to go pick up blown up trucks. That's what I did for 7 months straight.
Were you ever afraid?
Oh yeah, yes, ma'am. I think the most important part for me was when I first got there. One of the guys when we were switching over said, "You see, if you accept the fact that you're dead already, you won't die, and it's not as hard." I had to think about that for a few days. You know, really, really think about what does he mean. And I just, if you accept the fact that you're dead, it makes it a lot easier, and you're not going to die. You just succeed. I can't even put into context of what it means to me. I'm sure it means something different to you guys, but what it meant to me was if you accept the fact that you're here for one reason and one reason only, that's the reason that you're here. You're going to do your job to your best ability, not worrying about what could happen, what might happen, what does happen, but rather bettering the lives that you came to better. Right? Because those people, they have nothing. I mean, their women are treated like garbage, absolute garbage. And that was my motivation, to get every single one of those guys to treat them like that. That was my motivation, because that woman right there is solely responsible for everything I am. Everything I am as a man, and my dad too. And that didn't sit right with me. I mean, the way they treat it just was not right. So I just think, I mean, yeah, you're scared. You know, when you hear a whiz pass your head, that's like, whoa, that was scary. But if you accept the fact that it could happen, are you more focused on getting your job done to the best of your ability and not worrying about me? If I die, what if I die? There's 25 other guys here that rely on me, right? There's 25 other guys here that my sole purpose is to protect them, and their sole purpose is to protect me. And if one of us falls going down, we went down protecting each other, right? So isn't that what you're there for?